Welcome to the Midwest. This is in the middle of the. Wait a minute. It's just in the middle of the country. It's not even Middle West. It's like literally in the center of our country. How did it get to be known as the Midwest? Well, that's because everything west of the Appalachian Mountains was considered west. So in that way, it's Midwest. Okay, there are 12 Midwestern states. Whew. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Don't forget the upper part of Michigan. So the Midwest is called our nation's heartland because it makes all of our food. It's the agricultural center, right? Rich soil climate is great for producing corn, wheat, soybeans, and livestock. Okay, here's my only question. If it produces our food, why is it called heartland instead of stomach land? Thank you very much. All right, so here's the story of the Midwest. There was a huge recession, and it hurt a whole bunch of farmers in the 80s. Why? Okay, so here we go. You have family farmers. 1970s, farming is booming. They borrowed all this money from the bank, but then in the 80s, the economy crashes. They lost their farms. So, whoa, Mr. Corporate comes right in, and they buy up the farms real cheap from the banks because the farmers lost them. And now we have all of these giant corporate farms farmed with tons of migrant labor. Okay? Okay. Midwest, major cities, St. Louis, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Detroit, Cleveland, Kansas City. There are more. However, a lot of these cities, like Cleveland and Detroit, are losing population to other regions in the West and the South. Have a population of 65.4 million. All right, I love all of these mascots. You got Fighting Irish Cyclones, Fighting Illini, that's a Native American group. My least favorite is the Golden Gophers. Look, guys, my dad worked there. I lived right by the University of Minnesota, but who can be scared of a gopher? Okay, all right, great. Granted, like you have the Hoosiers of Indiana. What the heck is that? A hawk eye? How can we be scared of a hawk eye? But then we would go against the Wolverines and the Spartans and the Badgers. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, Buckeye is also really terrible, but that's fine. Okay. St. Louis. I love St. Louis. It has the Gateway Arch. It's a huge thing that we call the St. Louis Arch. You have a whole bunch of Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn stuff. City Museum is like a giant inside playground. I absolutely love going there. Hey, look at that! Crossing the Mississippi. This is on my bicycle trip across the United States. See? Look, there I am, on a bike, pointing at the meeting of the Great River Scenic Byway. What? Yep, that's how the country looks, going 12 miles an hour. Pretty exciting, huh? That hill, you can't tell, but that's Nathan trying just dragging his bike straight up a hill. All right, so in Chicago, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff. I mean, it is one of the largest cities in the country. You have Wrigley Field, the World Fair site, Sears Tower, which is actually known as the Willis Tower. You have Lakeshore Drive, Chicago style pizza, Oprah Studios there, and it's just a fun place to hang out. You have the Institute of Art. That is absolutely fantastic. You have the famous Chicago Bean, which is like this really cool art piece. Yep, there it is, lighting up the Willis Tower at night. All right, this is crossing into Iowa. Fascinating. Small town America, that's what really you have in the Midwest. So you have Shell Rock, Starved Rock, Green Rock, Clarksville, and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, we had to take breaks because things would break, and I learned that I'm really bad at hitchhiking because I kept on putting my thumb out because our bikes were broken and we needed help. But people just thought I was saying, like, hey, good job with driving. You're doing a good job. And they never stopped and helped us. Okay, this is my hometown, Minneapolis, St. Paul. You have the Walker Art Museum with the big cherry and the spoon, Mississippi River Coma Park. I just went to the Mall of America. Ooh, and they have terrible sports teams. That's enough said about that. That's me nearing the end of our bike trip. So fresh and so clean, clean. Minnesota State Fair, basically they deep fry any and everything that you can possibly think of. Deep fried butter, period. Growing up in Minnesota, lots of snow everywhere. Which one of those kids is me? I'm in yellow, can't you see? Huh? Rhyme. So we kept on riding our bikes and riding. Sometimes we had to cut through a graveyard. That's right, that's going through a graveyard. Woohoo! And this is what we experienced for miles and 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 miles. Yep. Okay. Brief break from the bike trip. So we went on a family road trip, 8 hours driving west from St. Paul to the Badlands of South Dakota. I was 8, and this is all you saw for miles and miles. Okay, this was pretty cool. I'm the one with the giant bangs. Awesome. Ooh. Yep. All right, driving all the way out to see good old Mount Rushmore. Some fog in the Badlands. This is making it to Fargo, North Dakota. There wasn't much to do there, but it was still a nice place. That's where we ended our bike trip. Boundary Waters in between Minnesota and Canada, one of the most beautiful places you can go. Here's into Wisconsin. I know that door keeps on opening and closing. Here's into Wisconsin. Yes, this is literally just farms. You do have a couple cities, Milwaukee and Green Bay, but it is farm country. There really is very little to do there. I mean, you do have all of Lake Michigan to do cool stuff on, and they're very passionate sports fans. Green Bay currently has, I think, a 30-year waiting list in order to be able to get tickets. So good luck. Detroit, I've really never been. I have a friend that just moved there. Lots of people used to live there. Motown, places Eminem went. You better, okay, anyway. Museum, Henry Ford car stuff. So there you go. Michigan, please understand there's the lower peninsula. That's what you think of as Michigan. But then there's the upper peninsula actually connected to Wisconsin. Okay? It's called the UP, Upper Peninsula. Get it right, people. And they're big about their sports teams. Wolverines, Detroit, and the crossing into Windsor. Those are sister cities right across Big Lake from each other. On the hand, I can't remember, or off my hand, or off the top of my brain, I cannot remember what it is. Indianapolis, I guess it has cool stuff. Indianapolis 500, they have a really cool zoo and a state fair. I'd love to see an Indianapolis 500 one day. That's my impression of. There's the state fair, horses. Yep, farm country. Lots of farm country in this area of the country. Ohio, cool stuff to see like Lake Erie, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cuyahoga River. In 1969, fun fact, Cuyahoga River caught on fire because it was so polluted. Woohoo! Cincinnati has Cincinnati chili. Like, literally, they're famous for their chili. I think that's kind of weird, but Chicago's famous for its pizza, so, I mean, who even knows? But it has a zoo, and it has bad sports teams. There you go. Columbus is actually Ohio's largest city. What? What? And then you have Cleveland, Ohio. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Very interesting mascots. They're finally changing that mascot from a racist Native American looking to something else. But then their other team is the Cleveland Browns, and I believe that's the color orange, so who even knows? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nebraska, they have corn mazes, the Lewis and Clark Trail, Omaha and Lincoln. I really don't know anything about this place. And Kansas, they have things there. And their sports teams are not actually in Kansas, but they're in Kansas City, Missouri. So, well. All right, lots of stuff in the Midwest. You got the St. Louis Arch, lots and lots of flat farmland, Mississippi River, tons of rivers, the Badlands of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore, Indianapolis 500, Great Lakes, Boundary Waters, cows and corns, lots of bike trails, Sears Tower, Mall of America, Wisconsin Dells. Woo!